Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
G'day, how you going? Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us today. Bit of evolution in 2020. This is pretty cool, and I've been wanting to sort of get underway with this for quite some time. We've been very good at smart property investment since we've been running the program over the last couple of years and bringing some of the best and brightest and most talented professionals in the real estate sector onto the studio and having a chat with us about how they see the world and the way in which property investors can use them and use their information to be better at what they're doing. We've also had a lot of really good stuff, really good people coming in who are property investors from right across Australia, telling their story, how they invest in property, their fears, their challenges, what they've done well, what they've done less well, and where they're going into the future. And these are the stories that we really like to share. And if that sounds like you and you've been tuning into the podcast for quite some time now, come on, have a chat with us, get involved. It's pretty easy stuff. It's good fun. We just come on in and have a chat about what you're doing. It's what the community likes to hear. And I think this sort of peer-to-peer learning is absolutely critical. So if that sounds like you and you want to come and have a chat with us, you can email the team editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. We'll get in touch with you. If you want to send us a direct message on any of the social stuff, just Smart Property HQ is where you need to go. Get in touch. Let's bring you into the show. But one of the developments for 2020 that I really want to focus on is just doing more of a deep dive conversation narrative about what's going on in property from our own team. We're very fortunate here at Smart Property Investment to have a team of very talented content creators and producers who are out there analysing the market, watching what's going on and how we can ensure that we can deliver the best content to you so you can make more informed property decisions. Two of them are in the studio with me today, the editor of Smart Property Investment, Emma Ryan, and one of our journos, Grace Ormsby. Girls, how you going?
Very well, thanks, Phil.
Can I say girls? Is that all right?
Of
girls,
course you can.
Going?
Yeah,
that's fine.
You're not going to say guys, how you going?
No, all good. Yeah, thanks for having us.
And I'm happy to report for all of our listeners out there that we're very strong in female talent on smart property investment, and it's great. It's great working with you girls, guys. It's just quite funny, isn't it? And I really appreciate the passion and dedication you have for the craft of journalism and how you can go about ensuring that Australia's property investors are well informed and engaged, which you've been doing through the written word on the website smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. So you're on air now. We're going to chat about some of the stuff going on, what you're seeing, conversations you're having, maybe some of the little inside secrets and tips of your days and how you can pick up the phone and speak to anyone in property in Australia to see what's going on. Emma,
yes.
What has been happening? What's been happening the last week or so in property? What's your read? What's your feel for the ground?
Well, look, there's never really a shortage of what's happening in property. It seems like this year is just starting off with a bang already. Our readership is up, our users are up, new users coming to the site, which is really encouraging as well. So I think we're targeting a fair bit of a range of property investors across Australia. But over the past week, the news has been, as I said, really steady. We've learned that auction clearance rates for December fared really well. And I think just generally, this is going to be a big year in property. So I'm keen to sort of dive on the front foot of it and see what everyone's experiencing.
Let's get stuck into it. And, how do you get a hold of you guys? Just editor at smartpropertyinvestment.com is the best way?
That's the best way, yeah. Otherwise, you can get in touch with us directly. So we've got our bios on the site as well. For every story we write, we make sure we put our bio there. So I think there's a direct email address for each of us there. So if there's any stories that are really, grappling your interest or attention, just get in touch with us via those as well.
That's cool. And property investors, you love speaking to property investors,
Love
don't you?
speaking to property investors. There's always a good story to tell, whether it's good or bad. There's a lesson and an opportunity. So I think, definitely get in touch with us if you've got something to share.
So what we'll do, Emma, yourself and your team, as we navigate 2020, we'll get together sort of every month or so, just have a bit of a chin wag on what's been going on. And I'm very conscious that we're in a pretty privileged position when it comes to property investment in that we can chat to anyone about anything at any given time. But the challenge we have with that is that it's very much your role is setting the sort of content agenda for smart property investment. So what we choose to focus on is what everyone sort of seems to talk about.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
we can get carried away with hotspots and stuff. And that's what the punters like. It's what, drives a lot of traffic to the site and it's what the readers want. But how responsible is it for us to always concentrate on, hey, this person said that this is the next hotspot. It gets a bit mundane, doesn't it?
Exactly. And I think when you base it off research, sometimes research can be a little bit outdated by the time it's, collated and then by the time we publish it. So that's why I think it's really important for people to actually share their own stories as well, because they really have an insight into what they've experienced. And whether or not the stats have matched up for that is another story. But I think, it's always important to get a bit of a mixture going with content.
And I'd add to that this measure of auctions being, the benchmark for market activity. A lot of people get carried away with auctions. They sit around on a Saturday afternoon waiting for auction clearance results, whether it's national, whether it's sort of per state or capital city. And people think that dictates the pace and the tempo of a market. And that's not always the case. So auctions is just one of many different mechanisms and one of many different factors which can give you some insights into how a market is operating, but it's not the be all end all. That said, they're popular stories because people it is something tangible that anyone that's in property investment can sort of understand. Are auction rates up? Are they down? How does it compare to last week and how does it compare to the year prior? So it's a bit of intelligence in there. And this piece written by you, how did December fare for auction? So this was a piece you wrote about a week or so ago, I believe.
Yeah, it was,
And it says the latest data from CoreLogic has depicted a strong finish for December when it comes to homes going under the hammer. This is based on CoreLogic's quarter auction market review. It said over the 3 months of 31 December 2019, the combined capital cities clearance rate came in at 70.3% over about 30,000 auctions. Big jump on the previous quarter where volumes were only 16.7 thousand, returning a clearance rate of about 70%. So clearance rates was similar in terms of percentage, but there was, 10,000 more auctions that went through. So this is a bit of an indicator of markets starting to shift, and that's what it tells you. Yeah. What did you get, Ree? What was your analysis on this?
Yeah, I think what was really interesting was when we compared the results to the same time or the corresponding period in 2018. So the clearance rate back then was 43.6%. So I think it kind of speaks to conversations that we've had, Phil, about, that property is so hot and it's on its way back and it's booming at the moment. So I think it's really encouraging overall. I think going off what I wrote, the only capital cities that didn't outperform the previous quarter were Melbourne and Tasmania. Sorry, Melbourne and Hobart. So that's interesting. I think.
So what you're talking about here is the combined capital cities clearance rate, 70%. That's all of Australia, right? Essentially.
Yeah.
There's a bazillion different markets within that, right? So just be careful of these numbers. It's good to have, but breaking it down into capital cities, you get a little bit tight on your analysis, but two suburbs side by side can have very different clearance rates.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is the challenge of the property investor is what information you trust in order to make informed decisions. And hopefully you've been tuning in to Smart Property Investment podcast for quite some time now and know that this is stuff we talk about. Now, Grace, you wrote a piece here called The Issue of the Missing Middle in inverted commas. And I'll read the intro. It says, a relatively low level of median density building approvals has highlighted the need for new options to be made available for certain sectors of the Australian population, according to, who was it, CoreLogic?
Yeah.
Eliza Owen, who we had on the podcast, I think last week or so. She's cool. She's doing a great job there at CoreLogic. Tell us about this story. Why do you think it was so popular?
I think it's not telling people something that they don't necessarily already know, but it does just highlight it is actually a real issue with what people are seeing in the property market. I guess people are struggling to find affordable homes, especially close to CBDs and city centres where they can be, where they work and they play and they want to be living. But there is that need for duplexes and for townhouses and all that kind of stuff in the middle, because Australia loves building high-rise apartments, as we know. And we love, the good old-fashioned Aussie dream of having a house with a picket fence. But it's just not feasible, I don't think. And so it was just an interesting piece. I think that it is something that people probably have been thinking about previously. People are building granny flats or converting their homes into multiple family units kind of thing. But yeah, I think it just really concreted that as an idea, and it's actually something that we probably should be thinking a lot more of as we hit the new decade.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And to quote Eliza Owen here, who's CoreLogic's head of residential research, she says medium density housing options can be important for young families who seek a more affordable housing option close to city centres but require more space than a unit, or older Australians wishing to downsize in the current area of residence to reduce housing costs in retirement. Now, this, as a property investor, is all really interesting sort of stuff. And I think the dichotomy that Australia has is that it's so connected with its past and this white picket fence and a quarter-acre block and a house in the suburbs that, the world's moved on so far. Yeah. Australia's moved on so far since the 50s and 60s when this was the dream of most Australians. 40+%, I think, of at least people in Sydney now, whether it's wider Australia, has one parent that was not born in Australia. Like, things have changed,
And it's not like that when you go elsewhere in the world, is it?
No, it's not.
They all live in apartments and they're very happy doing so. It's just, the Australian dream, I guess, is different to what it was.
Well, I think there's a whole bunch of different Australian dreams now, right?
Yeah.
And which is a cool thing, the fact that we have such a diverse makeup of Australia now, and everyone has different living requirements. But, bringing it back to what it means for the property investor, you've got to be connected with these type of issues because it can help determine what sort of property you buy in a particular location.
Definitely. It's what I experienced myself. Like the middle was exactly what I was after. I knew I couldn't afford the white picket fence where I wanted to be. And as a first home buyer, I didn't really want to be investing in a high-rise apartment in Sydney either. So that's the reason why I ended up getting a townhouse as well and found that it really has met my needs.
Townhouses can be a really good investment. We've got quite a few in the Smart Property Investment portfolio and they perform quite well. It is that sort of missing middle, but some of the challenges that people think is that, the world is shifting, Australia is shifting to high-rise living. And yes, it's a big part of it, particularly in our CBDs, but you've got the challenge of some of the issues we have with high-rise developments now, like Opal Tower out in
absolutely.
Out in Olympic Park, and some of the other challenges we have with properties, defects in buildings, cladding issues. We cover a lot on smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. So it really is a buyer beware if you're investing in high-rise developments, and they have some challenges as well in terms of always renting them out at what sort of rate. So, the best property investors find scarce property, which is unique, which therefore has upside value and appeal in it. So go and navigate that stuff. Go and check out smartpropertyinvestment.com. We've written about it, probably thousands of articles around it. So I'm not going to go over it today. Some other real key stories here over the last couple of weeks that I want to cover, but just go to a break beforehand. Back in a moment.
We get it. You're here listening to the Smart Property Investment Show and you're being interrupted by this ad. We value your ears just as much as your eyeballs, so we'll be quick. Join passionate property investors on Facebook today and we'll fill your Facebook feed with useful tips and tools, plus free education from industry experts and a tribe of people who get it. Passionate property investors. Find us on Facebook now.
Welcome back, everyone. Here with my colleagues Emma Ryan and Grace Ormsby. We're chatting about what's been going on in property over the last couple of weeks, just in terms of the stuff which has been very popular on smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. We're going to do this every now and then just to cover the grounds, and you can sort of get a feel for what we do as journalists and content creators on Smart Property Investment. Before we move on to the next couple of stories, big thanks to Nathan Fraser, our first deliverer of our new audio questions. So what you can do now, if you've got any questions for us on Smart Property Investment, we're going to get people in to answer them, or we'll answer them ourselves within our own content team. Wherever you listen to this podcast right now online at smartpropertyinvestment.com.au, just click the start recording button, record it. It's really, really simple. It means we get your voice question and we'll play it out on air. The first one we got from Nathan. Nathan asks, is it a question for the ATO's Adam O'Grady? Nathan, we'll save your question and we'll run it by Adam when he's next in the studio. When he was in having a chat with us a couple of weeks ago, he said he'd love to come back, and the ATO's right behind this whole process of informing and educating property investors to do what they do better. So Adam's going to come back in. We'll get him to answer that question when we have him in the studio. But thanks so much, Nathan, for sending that through. Really appreciate it. And if you want to send your question in, remember, just click the start recording button and we will get that and we'll play it out on air and get it answered. Moving right along. Is it time to invest regionally? Is that you, Emma? Did you write that piece?
That was not me. I think it was you.
Was it you, Grace? Was it?
No. Cameron wrote that one. I did do a follow-up the next day that kind of covered the same thing. So
this is ongoing debate. Do you invest in capital cities?
Yeah.
Do you invest regionally? I know I've got one of the biggest advocates for regional investing coming in the studio later this week. Stay tuned for it. It's with Simon Presley from Propertyology. He's a big proponent of regional investing and advocate. And he's he's got good rationale for doing it. So I'll ask him these questions. But why do you think it keeps coming back to this regional versus city? You're a regional girl. You're born and bred sort of in some middle of the place with red dirt.
Yeah. I'll say Glargenbone.
Glargenbone.
First thing I get. Say that again.
Glargenbone. But what is it, Grace? Why do you think this always comes back?
The price of property, isn't it? People can't actually afford to live or, build their lives in capital cities. There are obviously always going to be the people that can and that do, but there are people that want to build a life for themselves, and it's just not really possible in the capital cities. So I guess it's a topic that we do keep coming back to, but it's really interesting to look at the 20-year stats, and Simon will definitely provide some more insight onto that. But it's interesting to see just how, people are quick to write off regional areas, especially if they've never been to them, Emma's from Glargenbone, I'm from Newcastle. It's a little bit regional.
Newcastle's even further backwards than Glargenbone, right?
Yeah.
Send your hate mail editor.
Exactly.
I love Newcastle, great place.
Yeah, and even I've given the question to myself, is Sydney somewhere that I can afford to actually buy or to be investing in, or should I be looking back, back to my roots to be, putting money away because, there are things about those places that people love and that's why they want to live there.
It's a price point thing, absolutely. And Simon Presley sort of talks to this. And I'm just reading the story now here in front of me. And it says, most investors do not look outside the city to find the best returns. But Propertyology looked at the numbers and found regional areas holding its own. So Simon gets a bit of criticism about this. There's a couple of naysays in the market that sort of always have a bit of a pot shot at him. I'm sure he's happy me chatting about this, about investing regionally. Some people, the diehards, just say, no, you should only ever invest in metropolitan areas within 5 kilometres of the CBD. Yeah. So this just gives you this context of all the different strategies available to property investors and how hard it is for property investors to navigate investing in property, right? This is why I always lean on experts to help me sort of buy my stuff. But, there's no right answer. We don't have a position on this. We're just independent journalists trying to do our job, trying to give the information. But this piece here, he says, Cameron writes, one of our colleagues who's on smartpropertyinvestment.com.au, towns with fewer than 50,000 people have been able to produce higher returns than many capital cities over the last 20 years. This is according to Simon. He says, a regional town with a population of only 23,000 has Australia's third highest median house price. Other towns with populations as small as 7,000 have also proven to be far less volatile. We're talking volatility, it's another point, in Australia's biggest cities over the past 2 decades. So we're talking about how it's a little bit more stable regional markets is what he's getting at here. And he's saying these facts are just a few examples to highlight the gross inaccuracies with people's perceptions around Australian locations with smallish population sizes, the lifestyle, the real estate opportunities, the risk. He points to top performers included Goulburn, with an annual average median house price growth of 8.1%, Launceston in Tasmania with a yearly increase of 7.5%, and I don't even know where this is, Strathbogie.
Oh, I hope
I got that right. Victoria at 7.4%. So I know Goulburn and Launceston, they're not small little towns. They're not like Galaganbone.
No, 500 people.
It's Galaganbone. What, has it got like a high street, Galaganbone?
It's literally like the one main street. I think there's a supermarket there and there used to be a butcher. There's not much else though. And
that's it. Okay. So Launceston is a big regional centre. Goulburn is a big regional centre. So in many ways, they're a lot more diversified.
It's kind of similar
economies.
to Bathurst and
Dubbo. All those sort of places, which I know Simon talks to. So we'll ask him again about this when he comes in. And I want to ask him also, this sort of passion he has for regional Australia, he should just be the pin-up boy first.
Absolutely, yeah.
I've never seen him in a Kruger hat and boots though.
Bring him in that.
Yeah, that's what we need to do.
You need to do a costume segment.
Yes.
But I think as well it comes back to that risk thing, but also you can actually, buy a place with less capital to begin with. So I guess that's the lure for some people as well in investing regionally is that your deposit is always going to be less because the house prices are less. And if you're not taking on as much risk to put up that price for that property, then you're going to be in a better position as well for some people.
Yeah, it's horses for courses. And I'd add to that, Grace, there's nothing wrong with diversification in your portfolio as well, with some metropolitan and regional assets. Again, we talk to it a lot on smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. So we'll pick it up with Simon. I'm going to pin him down. I reckon he's got to have some, what do regional people have flowing through their veins? It's not like
Akubras.
Yeah, that's cool. Anyway, we'll deep dive a little bit more on regional Australia and have a look at it now. We'll get to this other piece which has been really popular. But before we do, just go to a quick break. Back in a moment.
At Passionate Property Investors, we hear from a lot of infinite learners who love to know more and share more about their property knowledge and investment journey. If this sounds like you and you want to get more education where your eyeballs are, then join us on Facebook at Passionate Property Investors. Videos, ebooks, and learning pathways to get your property cup filled up. Not to mention free education with a tribe who gets it. Join today by searching Passionate Property Investors on Facebook.
Welcome back, everyone. Here with Emma and Grace, my colleagues on smartpropertyinvestment.com.au, the engine room of the content of this great brand, which has been delivering to Australian investors for nearly a decade the information they need to know to be more informed property investors. Emma, year in summary, trends and predictions for the Brisbane property market in 2020. This thing's been beaten to death for many, many years. I could have written this, you could have written it, Grace could have written this headline 5 years ago or literally 5 minutes ago. And it says, over the past year, Brisbane has become the inverted commas safe choice for property investors looking to avoid the negative impacts of the declines in Sydney and Melbourne. It asks, will the Queensland capital continue to offer good opportunities in 2020? We could just trade off this stuff all day, every day.
I think so, yeah. Brisbane is just one of those cities that just keeps booming and booming. Like in terms of what we hear from, buyers agents, and I think even our last webcast was with Tim Lawless from CoreLogic and Paul Glossop from Pure Property Investment. And, they really sounded off on a lot of the opportunities that Brisbane has to offer. And it certainly does seem like that safe option. But then also, if everyone's buying there, I'm not really sure how it's going to fare for competition.
I reckon, and this is myself included, I talk from personal experience, I got a fair bit of property up in Brisbane. I've been waiting around for a while for it to start moving in the right direction, right?
Interesting.
And Tim Lawless, on that live stream, I wouldn't say he's bullish about Queensland, but he's not bullish.
Yeah,
Sure. Is that a journalistic sort of term? Not bullish.
It is now.
It is now. And I get this sort of sense from people I chat to right across property. This particular article here quotes Melinda Jennison. Melinda, I know you listen to the show, so g'day, how you going? She's from Stringline Property. Those guys concentrate up in the Brizzy area, so often they've got their finger on the pulse when it comes to this sort of stuff. She said in this piece, Brisbane ended 2019 on a high as it finished the year with a positive annual growth of 2.8%. So that's in consideration of what has been sort of very lackluster property markets over the last couple of years. Says most property analysts believe that Brisbane will see positive results in 2020, even predicting that the capital city will see the greatest national gains in house prices, ultimately leading to a 20% increase in the median price by 2022. So that's not bad news for property investors. While house prices are expected to continue rising as a result of increasing migration rates and healthy levels of housing affordability, the value of apartments is likely to remain flat for a while. And I get that as well because there was considerable oversupply there in Brisbane for quite some time. So again, lots of information there. I can see why that is a popular story.
Yeah, every time we mention Brisbane in a headline, it goes nuts. So obviously people are keen to keep reading about it, I think.
Can you give some sense, Emma, this role that you have within Smart Property Investment? I really enjoy working with you as we go down this journey of really deepening our content proposition to investors right across Australia, whether it's podcasts or webcasts or the deep dive stuff we do on smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. How do you guys approach your day? Can you give our listeners a bit of an idea for what you do and how you work out what to cover, when to cover it, how your attitude towards covering it? My view that most people think is that journos are a pretty cynical bunch and always look for the negative rather than positive. It's not really the way we go about doing things here, is it?
No, certainly not at SPI. And I'm not just saying that. I mean that actually because I think we're all pretty passionate about property and that's why we love to write about it, So our typical day, if we do have a typical day, is we come in every morning, usually grab a coffee before we dive deep into the property market, but checking the latest stats, what's happening, what are the researchers saying, what's the stats saying, but then also going through our inboxes and hearing about the great stories that are coming through from investors themselves, following them up. And also I think a big part of what we do is also, playing off this podcast a lot, because you get some really great guests in and, we're keen to hear more from them. And also, sharing some of their journeys and their tips. Those seem to be the stories that do really well.
So we spoke about how to contact you guys and we want to hear from everyone in property. This podcast is open to anyone or anyone who has a reasonable voice in property. And you can get involved even if you don't want to come on the podcast. There's, heaps of comments come through smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. Get involved. Let us know what you think about. But contact Emma and her team, editor at smartpropertyinvestment.com.au and have a chat with us. And if you're actually working within property, we want to hear from you as well. Lend your eyes, lend your views, your opinions on what will happen to property because it is a national pastime, right? Mm-hmm. You talk about cricket, you talk about property,
exactly.
What's going to happen this year. I think every Australian has a view and opinion on this. And to that, you got to be careful about who you listen to when it comes to property.
Exactly.
Yeah, no pun intended, but it is a lived experience for everyone, for all of us, and then for everyone at home too listening.
What sort of frustrates you guys the most when you sort of get all this information coming in from people? I see what you do. You wade through hundreds of press releases. Everyone's sort of, everyone wants to be on smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. So you get so much information. What's your smell test to see whether or not you should explore something a little bit further or discount something?
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes it can be quite difficult because, as you say, we do get a lot of press releases that are coming through and people want to be heard in the property market for whatever reason it is. So I think the smell test is basically doing your research, making sure that the person that you're actually engaging with through these emails or these press releases is someone that is credible. CoreLogic, we always, look to them as a bit of a guide because they do a lot of research. Simon Presley's another one. There's many, but if you get a random sort of, floating through your inbox and you're like, wait a second, who is this person and what agenda are they trying to push? You sort of do a bit of, you're a bit taken back. You do question it.
Yeah, and this is the filter that we need in terms of going about the work that we're doing. So, really appreciate all your help, all your efforts, attention to driving this stuff every single day. If you're not getting all the information coming out of smartpropertyinvestment.com.au, you can actually subscribe. So every single morning you'll receive information about, so you're the first to know what's happening in property and property investment right across Australia at smartpropertyinvestment.com.au/subscribe. Go there, put your email address in there, and you can keep connected with what's going on. If you want to do it a little bit more modern way, social media, we're right across it. The handle is at Smart Property HQ. That's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're also on Instagram. So go and check us out there. Like us, send us a direct message. We're right across it. We check this stuff every single day. Let us know what's going on. What I'd love to hear and see more of is property investors from across Australia coming on the show and telling us about their journey investing in property. It's what I really enjoy having conversations around. I really get a good kick out of it. And I often reckon I've got one of the best jobs in Australia in that I get to speak to property investors all day, every day about the work they're doing. It helps me become more informed. So hope you enjoyed the chat today. Guys, girls, that was good. I really enjoyed it. I've got to have to work that out so it's a bit more seamless. Team, I don't know. What do you reckon?
VIPs.
Most important.
Well, that's the most important way to a journo's heart, right? Exactly. There's a lunch and a beer somewhere, right?
Yep, 100%.
That's probably the filter for
that is,
podcast. Is definitely
to anyone listening. Yeah, that's key to our hearts.
Is that the way you do it? Do you know what we should do one day? Is just thinking on the fly. Let's do a bit of a meet the media. So we'll do an event up here at in North Sydney, and people can come in and actually come and have a chat with us and
love that.
Let us know what's going on. Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, let's do that. If that sounds like a good idea and you want to get involved, again, email us editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. That's it for us today. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in about a couple of weeks' time. We'll have another chat about what's going on in property. And thanks so much for tuning in today. It's a real privilege for us to be able to join you wherever you are right now, whether you're sort of driving in the car or at the gym or walking your dog, coming in and sharing half an hour of your time to help you be more informed about property investment and being part of this great community of property investors right across Australia. We'll see you again next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.